Hey guys, I'm Amber, this is Big City Bettas, and today we're going to be talking about my fry care, the first 2 weeks. If you haven't already, I highly recommend you check out the first part of this series. If you've already seen it, then welcome back. Let's talk about fry care. The first few weeks are when the fry are their most fragile, and many breeders will experience die-offs during this time. I don't often lose healthy fry or really lose any at all. I attribute this to a strict daily routine of multiple feedings and clean water. While this routine isn't all that complicated or hard to follow, it does vary quite a bit during those first few weeks, so I will include an easy to follow chart at the end of the video. In today's video, I'm mainly going to be showing how I care for these young fry and not so much the babies themselves. As you can see, they're quite small and this camera doesn't really do a great job of capturing them. I'll start adding fresh water to the tank on day 3. I do this with a bucket of clean, dechlorinated water that I've had sitting overnight with a heater in it. This is to prevent any pH swings as the water sits and ages. I use a piece of airline tubing and I let it drip into the tank until it's filled by about ½ an inch. The first food I feed my fry is worms. This is in the form of banana, Walter, and microworms. And while you don't have to, you can just start right from the get-go feeding baby brine shrimp. Some people do. I personally don't. I believe that anyone breeding any type of fish or feeding anything in their fish from baby brine shrimp should have one of these cultures, because should your baby brine shrimp hatchery fail, this is going to be a great fallback plan. It's food that you always have on hand. It's also really good for if you have like surprise fry, because you can just grab a jar, swipe, and add some to your tank. Around a week old, you're going to start to notice some fin development. I find this happens in a very predictable pattern. The first week, you'll notice the tail or caudal fin developing. The second week, the side or pectoral fins. The third week, the anal and the dorsal, so both the bottom and the top of the body, those fins develop. And the very last fins, around 3.5, 4 weeks old, are going to be the ventral fins, and those are the hardest to notice when they come in. Some bettas won't develop their ventral fins at all. This can be caused by a number of issues, and there's actually a number of theories as to why this is. I'm not going to get into that today in this video. It's easy to see why these babies are so fragile. I mean, they're just teeny tiny little buggers. Alright, so for baby brine shrimp, I use one of these nice little round hatcheries. You can get them off Amazon. I'll link down in the description box below. And I use this in conjunction with a reptile heat mat and thermostat. The thermostat will turn off the heat mat when it reaches a certain point so you don't cook those baby brine shrimp. And I use a 32-ounce container of just normal tap water. I add a tablespoon of salt. For a better hatch rate, you can also add a teaspoon of baking soda to buffer the pH. And as you can see, the hatchery consists of 2 bottom parts. It has the base, and then it has this little white piece that has striations on one side. That's the side that goes down. And what happens is you put the water in, and you want the water to cover the tops of those little black ridges in the base. And the bottom of the white piece should be covered, but not the top. This is because you add the eggs to the outside of the tray around the white part right there, and then when they hatch, they have to swim under the white part to get to the center where the light is. This separates the egg shells from the actual baby brine shrimp. So as you can see, you just sprinkle some eggs around the outside. And then I'm going to stick I should stick the probe in at this point, but I forget. And then I remember. And I take the lid off. There we go. Good job, Amber. Yep. You need the probe to be in there, otherwise the water could heat up and kill all your baby brine shrimp. So, there we go. And 12 hours later, baby brine shrimp. Yeah. Then you just lift up the sieve and drain out the water. And I rinse my shrimp out into a clean shot glass using a pipette and some of the water that I have on hand for water changes. I do this so I can target feed and avoid overfeeding. I start doing water changes on the spawn tank on day 11. I do this with a piece of airline tubing the exact same way I add water to the tank, only instead of dripping water from a bucket into the tank, I'm dripping water from the tank into a bucket. I highly advise you watch the piece of airline tubing the entire time because fry can often get sucked up into it. And then I'll just drip water back in to replace what I removed. Right here's a really good example of the size difference between fry. Look at the little clump of them right in front of that cichlid stone. These fry are so tiny that sometimes when I glance in the tank, it doesn't even look like there's anything in there. But when you sit and look long enough, you can see there's a lot of life going on in there. Many times after I've fed the tank, I'll sit and just watch. 10, 20, 30 minutes sometimes. I could stare into these tanks and watch those little tiny little babies dart around for hours, honestly. It's mind-blowing to me that I didn't even expect to get fry from that spawn. I was hoping for the best when I lowered the water, and my male did his job in 5 days. 5 days from spawning to free swimming and eating on their own and just doing their thing, being little fishes. It's magical. Watching bettas grow is truly amazing. Sometimes I can't believe that these teeny tiny little darty tadpoles in just a few months are gonna be as big and beautiful as their daddy. I really can't tell you how excited I am to see these babies grow up and to find out what they become. How many are going to be yellow koi? How many are going to have their daddy's beautiful blue eyes or his black mask? So I can't wait to find out, but the most important thing is that they grow up to be healthy, spunky, fierce little dragonfish just like their daddy. And I'm sure they will because they're bettas, and that's what bettas are. Thank you guys for watching and joining me for part 2 of the Spawn series. Hope to see you next week.